This is the best Aerith statue on the market, and in this video, I'm going to tell you why. Hey everybody, I'm Dylan and welcome back to Figure Friday. Today we're going to be taking a look at MH Studio Aerith. She's a 1/4 scale statue. Let's dive right in. This is a 1/4 scale statue of Aerith Gainsborough from Final Fantasy VII Remake. She's one of the main three protagonists alongside Cloud and Tifa. Standing 56 centimeters tall, 25 centimeters wide, and 21 centimeters deep, she's a companion piece to the Tifa that I reviewed last week. Now this is a resin statue, so she does have a good amount of weight to her. The statue did come out in 2021, so it's a bit of an old one, but if you're able to grab it, count yourself lucky. I have not seen it on the aftermarket anywhere recently. Now this statue is a super easy one to assemble. It comes in like 4 pieces. The base, the body, both arms, and the ponytail. 5 pieces. She retailed for right around the $600 mark, and last time I saw her in the aftermarket, it was closer to $1,000, so if you're trying to find her now and you get a chance to see her, you're not going to be paying much less than that. Alright, with the nitty gritty out of the way, let's take a look at this statue, starting with the pose. Aerith is a reserved character from Final Fantasy VII. She's very soft and cutesy, which is depicted really well in the pose of the statue. Her feet are slightly crossed, while she's holding her arms politely behind her back in a simple museum-style pose. In the game, she's a reserved character, but she's definitely got some spark behind her eyes here. MH Studios did a really good job capturing that with this one. Now the pose of course leads right into the sculpt. This is by far the best face sculpt of any Aerith statue I've seen on the market. The details are so precise, the hair strands look fantastic, they're nice and spread out rather than clumped together. The jacket sits over her dress in a way that contours her body while maintaining a look of realism. It also has great texture with so many zippers and small danglies hanging off of it. The way the dress falls, it's wrinkling to look flowy and weighty, and not to mention the details in the dress itself. All of those details are actually sculpted into the piece. She's got a little tie in front that's made to look like it's blowing in the wind. It's nice and it hangs off of her body. And the slightly raised details of the dress really make this thing pop. The bracelets on her wrists were intricately sculpted and they're sitting in a way that kind of hovers off of her wrists. Plus they have the signature engraving that you see from the games. Now we gotta talk about the base. This base is another banger. MH knows what they're doing when it comes to bases, fitting it to the character and ripping it straight out of the game. Now if you know Final Fantasy VII, then you know Aerith grows her flowers in the church, and that's represented really well here with this base. You can see a miniaturized church steeple, some stained glass, some broken curtains and broken floorboards with flowers poking through. Those flowers are individually sculpted, stems and leaves and petals. They show really well on this base, right around her feet, adding a lot of pop and tying this whole base together. Just like the sculpt, the paint is standout on this piece. The skin is soft and delicate. It's pretty pale, which is accurate for Aerith, but if you compare my Aerith to my Tifa, which were both made by the MH Studios, Aerith is way more pale than Tifa is. I'm not sure if that was a conscious decision, but Aerith is definitely more pale than Tifa. That said, there's a lot of depth when it comes to the painting of the clothes. The jacket has a lot of darks and deeps as well as some highlights to really make it stand out. It's also got a lot of soft gold bits and bobs, some zippers, some buckles, some eyelets. They really contrast the jacket in a way that adds some realism. Now most of the details in the dress actually come from the sculpted details on the dress, but there is some shading to give it some variance as well, just to add a little depth with the flowy movement that the dress is showing. Now the bracelets have a metallic, almost automotive paint style finish to them, which is really cool, but unfortunately, unless you display this statue like in the middle of the room where you're walking around it and seeing the back all the time, with her hands behind her back, you're just not seeing those bracelets very often. Now the wood grain on this base is excellent. It really feels like it's from an old church and those flowers are growing out through the floorboards. You have some lovely gray and contrasting blue on the steeple. The blue is a great pop of color. And all those flowers we just mentioned are individually painted and add a lot of minute details that really bring this thing together. Now lastly, you have the stained glass on this base. And this is where it falls a little bit flat for me. This is just a decal. It's just a sticker that they put behind the rest of the resin to make the stained glass look like it's stained glass. I really wish they would have gone the extra mile here and actually done some either see-through plastic or see-through resin to make it look more realistic like stained glass, because they committed so hard on the rest of the statue and then that part kind of falls a little flat for me. Just my opinion. All right, now no statue is perfect, but this one's pretty darn close. Honestly, there's not a ton of things that are inherently wrong with the statue, more so things that I would just change. One thing I did find weird though is this is a companion piece to the MH Studios Tifa statue that I reviewed last week, and that statue comes with glass eyes, which really pops and it brings a lot of life to Tifa, but this one is just painted resin. She just has painted on eyes, and for some reason they did it with one but not the other. I don't know why you'd make that choice, especially when these are coming out at about the same time as almost a pair, so who knows. Speaking of things that I would change, I would love to see some swap outs on this statue. Having Aerith come with her signature staff would be really cool, but I think you'd have to change the pose to do that, but having a staff option would be awesome. Plus having the stained glass be actual stained glass like we talked about earlier, that would be really cool. And like I said last week with Tifa, if you throw in a light up feature, and these both had light up features in the reactor for Tifa and behind the stained glass for Aerith, man, now you're talking about a killer statue. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Here is MH Studio Aerith. In my opinion, this is the best Aerith statue out there. From face sculpt to base sculpt, this thing blows all other Aeriths out of the water. But with that said, I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you have any other Aerith statues that you think are better than this one? Tell me in the comments below. If you haven't already, go check out the Tifa statue review from last week, like this video, subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next week.